My brother sold our father's estate 3 days after the funeral. He didn't tell me. He didn't ask me. And when I confronted him, he looked me straight in the eyes and said, "Dad wanted me to have everything." Pause 1 second. I was about to leave when his phone rang. He answered. Then, his face turned completely white. The man on the other end said 6 words I'll never forget. "Your sister owns the estate now." Pause 2 seconds. My brother slowly looked at me, and for the first time, he was afraid. Before I tell you how everything happened, you need to understand what my father left behind. Because Willow Creek wasn't just a house. It was the one thing my family had fought over for years, and I had no idea that my father had been preparing for this moment long before he died. My father's funeral ended on a rainy Thursday afternoon. By sunset, most of our relatives had gone home. The flowers were still sitting beside his grave. The ground was wet. The sky was gray. And I was still trying to accept that the man who had raised me was gone. But while I was grieving, my older brother Daniel was already thinking about money. I remember looking at him across the cemetery. I said, "Can we not discuss money today?" Daniel sighed. "Someone has to be practical, Emma." I stared at him. "Our father hasn't even been buried for 3 hours. Daniel looked toward the grave, then back at me. "That's exactly why we need to deal with everything quickly." Everything. That word stayed in my mind, because Daniel wasn't talking about grief. He was talking about assets. The next morning Daniel called me. "We need to meet at Dad's house." I asked him why. His answer made my stomach drop. "There's a buyer." I thought I'd misunderstood him. "A buyer for what?" He paused, then said, "The estate." When I arrived at Willow Creek, Daniel was standing in the driveway. 2 men in expensive suits stood beside him. One was holding a folder. The other was studying the house like he already owned it. I got out of my car. "Who are they?" Daniel smiled. "Our buyers." I looked at him, then at the house, then back at my brother. Something felt terribly wrong. I said, "You can't sell this house." Daniel laughed. "Actually, I can." I asked him where the will was. His smile disappeared. Then he said something I never expected. "I have power of attorney." My heart stopped. I asked, "What?" Daniel said Mom had signed the document years ago. I stared at him. "Mom has been dead for 6 years. He shrugged. "Exactly." Then he showed me the paperwork. I looked at the signature and immediately knew something was wrong. I pointed at the document. "That's not Mom's signature." Daniel laughed. "You're grieving." I shook my head. "No." I looked directly at him. "That's not her signature." For the first time, Daniel looked nervous. I turned around and walked toward my car. But before I reached it, I heard the buyer speaking to Daniel. "Are you absolutely certain she has no claim?" Daniel answered immediately. "Absolutely." I stopped walking. I didn't turn around, but I heard every word. Daniel had no idea how wrong he was. That evening I sat alone in my apartment. I was holding an old photograph of my father, and suddenly, I remembered the final conversation we'd ever had. He had looked at me and said, "Emma, if Daniel ever tells you that I wanted him to sell Willow Creek, don't believe him." At the time I didn't understand. Then Dad said something even stranger. "If anything happens to me, find the blue room." That night I drove back to Willow Creek. Daniel wasn't there. The house was completely silent. I walked upstairs. The blue room had been my father's study. I hadn't been inside it for years. I searched everywhere. The desk, the drawers, the cabinets. Nothing. Then I noticed something. The bookshelf wasn't sitting flush against the wall. I reached out and pushed it. The bookshelf moved. Behind it was a small metal door. My hand started shaking. I opened it. Inside was a narrow compartment, and inside that compartment was a single envelope. I pulled it out. There were 3 words written on the front. "For Emma only." I opened the envelope. Inside was a letter. My father's handwriting. I hadn't seen it since before his death. The letter began, "Emma." I continued reading. "If you're reading this, Daniel has probably tried to sell the estate." My hands began shaking. Then I read the next sentence. Don't stop him. I stared at the page. Then I read, let him believe he has won. My father explained everything. Willow Creek wasn't simply a family home. Years earlier, before I was born, the land had been part of a much larger development project. My father had refused to sell, and said he secretly purchased several surrounding parcels. Over the years, he continued acquiring land, and then something happened. The entire area was rezoned for a major commercial development. Suddenly, everything made sense. Daniel thought he was selling an old family estate, but the property wasn't worth the few $1,000,000 he'd agreed to accept. According to the development agreement, the land could be worth nearly $30 million. I couldn't believe it. But then I reached the final pages of my father's letter, and that's where everything changed. Dad had written, Daniel doesn't know about the development agreement. But there is one more thing. I kept reading. I placed the controlling rights to the estate into a trust. My heart started pounding. Then came the sentence that changed my life. The beneficiary is you. I couldn't breathe. My father hadn't left the estate to Daniel. He had left it to me. The next morning my phone rang. Unknown number. I answered. Hello. A man's voice said, Miss Carter. Yes. This is Jonathan Reed. I recognized the name immediately. He was the buyer. Jonathan told me his lawyers had discovered a problem. The purchase contract was complete, but the title wasn't clean. There was a trust attached to the property, and someone had deliberately hidden it. I asked him who. He didn't answer immediately. Then he said, Your brother told us you had no claim. I closed my eyes. Daniel had lied. But Jonathan wasn't finished. There's something else. I asked what. He said, Your father's lawyer contacted me. I met Jonathan that afternoon. He showed me the purchase documents. Daniel had sold Willow Creek for $4.8 million, but the development agreement could make the property worth several times that amount. Daniel had made a massive mistake. He thought he was selling a house. He was actually selling a fortune. But there was an even bigger problem. The trust required my approval, and Daniel had forged documents claiming that approval. I called a family meeting. Daniel arrived confident. He even brought his lawyer. He sat down and smiled. I hope this doesn't take long. I placed a folder on the table. It won't. He looked at it. What's that? I slid the document toward him. The original trust. His smile disappeared. I looked directly at Daniel. You forged Mom's signature. His lawyer immediately interrupted. That's an allegation. I placed another document on the table. No. I pointed to the first signature, then the second. This is Mom's real signature. I looked at Daniel. And this is the signature you used. Nobody spoke. Daniel suddenly realized he was trapped. Then the door opened. An elderly man walked into the room. It was Martin Hale, my father's attorney. Daniel stared at him. You knew. Martin calmly nodded. Your father instructed me to reveal everything if the estate was ever transferred without Emma's consent. Daniel looked around the room. He was losing control. Martin handed me another document. It was my father's final letter. I opened it. The first sentence broke my heart. Daniel was always my son. I paused, then continued. But Emma was the one who understood why I built Willow Creek. My father hadn't built that estate simply to become wealthy. He had a dream Daniel had completely misunderstood. Jonathan stood up. Then he said, I've withdrawn from the purchase. Daniel looked at him. Why? Jonathan answered calmly. Because I discovered the transaction was fraudulent. Daniel's face went pale. Then Jonathan turned toward me. I've made another offer. I looked at him. For what? He smiled. The surrounding properties. My father never wanted Willow Creek turned into another luxury development. He wanted it to become something useful. A place where young people could learn. A place where entrepreneurs could build businesses. A place where people who didn't have opportunities could create their own. For the first time, I understood why Dad had protected the estate. It was never about the house. It was about the future. 1 year later, Willow Creek looked completely different. The old house remained, but around it stood classrooms, business offices, a technology center, and training facilities. Young entrepreneurs walked through the grounds every morning. My father's dream had become real. And Daniel? He had lost everything he tried to gain. One afternoon, someone handed me a small envelope. It was from Daniel. I opened it. There was only one sentence. I finally understand why Dad trusted you. I read it twice. For a moment I felt anger, then sadness, because despite everything, Daniel was still my brother. I folded the letter. I didn't forgive him that day, but I finally stopped carrying the anger. I walked into my father's old study. The walls were still blue. The bookshelf was still there. And behind it was the little compartment where I had found his letter. I placed the original letter back inside. Then I added a photograph. It showed the new Willow Creek Community Center, filled with young people. Underneath it I wrote, "You were right, Dad." I paused, then added, "It was never about the house." I closed the compartment, and for the first time since my father died, I smiled.